Hello everyone, my name is Niro Sayas. I'm the Professional Services Manager at Ayehu Software Technology. Today we'll have our ITPA course, IT Process Automation course, in which I will introduce you Ayehu eyeShare, our IT automation solution. And let's start with setting a quick agenda for this session. We'll start with a quick overview about the product. We'll get familiar with the system requirements. Then we'll introduce the workflow designer in which you can create automated workflows. We'll learn how to create your first workflow. We'll learn how to use eyeShare bidirectional communication channels in order to combine human decision and skills throughout the process. We'll learn how to use variables inside the workflow, and we'll end the session with learning how to initiate workflow either using action rules or scheduled actions. So, what is eyeShare? eyeShare is an IT automation solution which allows you to convert any tasks that are being done today manually into automated tasks. It can be either routine tasks being done on a daily basis by our IT staff, or recovery procedures that are being initiated according to external alerts from monitoring system or from any system that generates alert. So here is how it works. It starts with receiving an event from any system. Basically, eyeShare sits above monitoring system, receive the alert either using SNMP, email, web service, and so on. Then it analyzes the alert and decide which recovery procedure to initiate. During this recovery procedure, eyeShare contacts your IT staff using few communication channels. It knows how to use decision and skills throughout the process, and of course, the entire procedure is fully documented. Now, regarding the system requirements, you can see it right here. First of all, eyeShare can be downloaded from a website. You can get a 30-day trial version on the website. The system can be installed on a virtual machine or a physical machine with a minimum of 2 GB memory and 20 GB storage. The operating system should be Windows Server 2003 or 2008. It could be 64-bit. And the system includes SQL 2005 Express Edition, which is part of the installation package, or you can use your own SQL server, SQL server that you already have in your company. In addition, we require Microsoft.NET Framework 3.5 SP1 or above. The installation package already includes this framework. And you need to provide a dedicated email account for the system. It can be either using Exchange, POP3, SMTP, or a dedicated Gmail account. We use the email account in order to receive and send alert from eyeShare. And let's start talking about workflows, how to create workflow. So I'll open eyeShare Studio on my machine. This is the studio. As you can see here, eyeShare Studio. I would like to create new workflow by pressing New here, the New button. And as you can see, we have here the workflow designer. Now, let's talk about the option that we have inside the designer. On the left side, as I mentioned before, you have a toolbox with over than 500 activities. You can use the search field in order to search for the required activity. You don't need to remember where everything is located. So if, for example, you're looking for the ping activity, you just press ping here, and you'll see this marked, the ping activity. On the right side, you have templates, predefined templates that you can use. If you would like to use one of the templates, you just need to drag the entire template into the designer. It's already made for you. On the upper toolbar, we have the option to save the workflow, save and close, discard and close, schedule the workflow, create an action rule that will initiate the workflow according to external alert, run, which allow you to manually execute the workflow, and the documentation button that allow you to document the entire workflow. Now, let's drag and drop our first activity to the designer. Let's start with checking a simple service on the local host. So I can take the get service status here into the designer, and you can enter the activity by double-clicking it. Each activity receives its own alert, and each activity has a help page that can be reached either using this icon here or a right-click help over here. So you can use this help page in order to understand what the activity is doing, what is the output of the activity, and what is the settings. Now, let's try to execute this one. Very simple. This one, for example, receives the service name and the server, the required server. Okay, so let's check this one. In this case, the spooler, the display name of the service is print spooler, but we're looking for the service name, which is, there it is, spooler. Now, if we execute this workflow, you can see the active logs on the bottom of the screen are opened, and you can see exactly what was the result of the execution. You can see here, this is the result column. The service is running. Let's just stop this one for the demo and execute this one again. Now you can see it is stopped. Now let's add the layer of recovery. In order to understand what is the result of the action, we use the if-else activity, which is a very fundamental and basic activity in eyeShare. And this one can be found under the workflow controls right here. These sections include activities that are related to the structure of the workflow. Things like terminating the workflow, running sub-workflow, checking the result of a workflow, executing while loop, go to, and so on. Now, if we're looking at the if-else activity, we just put it here like this. And now we need to understand what was the result of the previous action in order to move on. So I'll remind you the help page here, and you can see here that the output can be either running, stop, or stop pending. But let's say that the result, we'll say here, if the result is stopped, then the workflow goes this way. Now, whenever you use the if-else activity, by default, the right branch will be the default branch. That means that the workflow can never be stopped. I mean, there is a certain result that we expect for, but there always needs to be a branch that will deal with an unexpected result or a result that was not defined. So here in this case, the workflow will go this way when the result is stopped, and on to the right way on any other option. It can be either the workflow is running, but it can be also that you get access denied, the server is down, you get the service name wrong, misspelled, or something like that. Now, if we check the if-else activity itself, let's see what options do we have inside this activity. So we have three parts in the return values here. We'll discuss the first two and of course the default branch, that you can see here, this checkbox here. As I mentioned, the right branch will also always be marked as the default branch, but of course you can change it. Now, the first section is the predefined values. Here you have results such as success, failure, true, false, hard-coded results after actions like ping, telnet, and so on. Now, if we perform actions such as checking disk space, checking CPU, memory usage, executing a script, and the result can be a number or an integer, then you need to use the second section, which is user-defined values. Here you can define results like greater than, lower than, equals, and so on. This is the part that you can put the return value. So you have those two sections, the predefined values and the user-defined values. Now, the service status, return stopped or running, and here we have the stop section. Now let's add the recovery here. In case the service is stopped, let's start it. So we'll add service restart here to the required place. We'll use the start service right here. Just like this. And again, put here the service name and the server name. So now we have workflow that checks the service status and execute service, start the service, actually doing a recovery in case it is stopped. Let's check this one by pressing run here, just like this. You can see here that the service was stopped. Service start returns the current status of the service. Go to the services right here, refresh the page, and you can see that now this is one is started, just like this. Yeah. So you see it's very simple. You just need to drag and drop and basically reflect what you are doing today manually to an automated workflow. Now let's add additional layer to this scenario. One of the most powerful features in eyeShare is the fact that the communication channels are bidirectional. Therefore, the workflow doesn't have to be fully automated. So you can use your human decision skills throughout the process. You can decide whether or not to restart the service, whether or not to delete files, and basically whether or not to do anything. So let's add a question before restarting the service. We'll send an email to the administrator, and according to his answer, we'll decide whether to restart the service or not. So all you need to do here, you go to the communication section, just like this. You add send email right here. It, of course, can be sending text message, making call, and so on. I'll add myself here. Now, a key point in this phase is the fact that you need to define timeout here. In case you use the send email activity just for notifying someone, you'll keep it this way, timeout 0. But in case you would like to wait for a response from someone, you need to define how much time would you like to wait for a response. So let's say we'll give the administrator 10 minutes to reply, and then we need to instruct him what to reply in order to restart the service. So just type in like this. Now, we're almost there, but we need to now check the response of the user. So we'll add additional if-else branch here, just like this. And now we need to check the answer. So this is exactly where you use the user-defined values. Now we'll check if the user reply contains the word yes. Now you can fully understand the meaning of the default branch in this sample, because eyeShare will go this way to the left branch only if the user reply yes. And on any other case that can be replying something else, replying, mistyping the word yes, or even not replying after 10 minutes, eyeShare will go to the right side. So we'll put the recovery here, and now you get a workflow that check the status of the service, send an alert to the administrator in case it is down, and wait for reply in order to started. So let's start the service again, just like this. I'll execute the workflow. You see it stopped. Now eyeShare is sending an email to the user, waits for response. We define 10 minutes. I'll open my email here. Waiting for the email. Now, as soon as I receive the email, I will just need to reply with the word yes, and the service will be restarted. Let's go back here. Well, we'll wait for the email for a while, and we'll move on. We'll move on for now. I think you got the picture here. As soon as I receive the email, I'll reply with a yes, and then eyeShare will start the service. So you see, it's very important to understand that no action should be fully automated. You can either define the workflow to be interactive or automated, and of course, you can define the workflow to be automated or not automated according to your needs. That means that during the weekend, it can be fully automated, or during the working hours, you can ask someone what should be the response. Now, let's move on to the workflow variables, like this. It is very, one of eyeShare key concepts when it comes to creating workflow is the workflow variables. Let's see how it works. Go here. Go back to our workflow, let's set this one, and create a new one. Now, each activity returns something. It can be either an integer, it can be a string, or even a table. Okay, so for example, we saw the service status that returns the service status. It can be disk space, checking the disk space. This one will return the number. Memory usage will return a number as well, and so on. Now, it's important to understand that the return value is being kept during the workflow in a variable which is named after the activity name. You can see here that we have the read file, for example. The name of the activity is read file 1, and there will be the result. The result will be stored in a variable named read file 1. Now, the result of each action can be the input of any of the following actions. I'll emphasize this one again because it's very important. The output of each action can be the input and will be used as the input of any of the following actions. So let's check this. Let's see a sample of this one. Just to review it again, each activity has a unique name. The name has to be unique, of course. The result is being saved in a variable name after the activity name. The result can be either a single value or a result set table. And the value of the variable will be referred as follows. Activity name, percentage, activity name. Now, let's see how it goes. Just like this. Here is the read file sample here. You can see here we start with reading a log file from here. We'll check the number of rows in the log file. In case it is lower than 10, we will send an alert to the system administrator. So let's start with reading the file here. By the way, here is the message. Let's reply yes. Got a little bit of delay here. See, we have here a log file just like this. We'll start with reading the file like this. This is the result of the file. Now let's say we need to send an alert in case we have more than 10 rows in the log file. So we will use the get rows count activity from here. Okay, we'll take the result, the read file variable from here, and we'll put it like this. It should be wrapped with percentage. You see the output of this activity is the input of this activity here. Let's execute this one again. You see here that the result is 41. We have 41 rows in the log file. Now, let's use the if else here, just like this. And let's say, in case we have more than 10 rows here, we will need to send an alert to the administrator. Now, let's see how we use this one again. Now, let's say we will need to send the number of rows from here. Now we would like to send the actual number of rows. We just put it like this. The get rows count activity holds the number of rows in the log file. This is the name of the activity here. So let's execute this one. You see we have 41 greater than 10, and then eyeShare is sending the alert to the administrator, just like this. Okay, so let's review this one again. We have the read file that returns a table, the content of the log file. Get rows count. This is an activity which returns the number of rows in a table. This one receives the result of the read file with percentage, and we use the get rows count itself when sending the number, the actual number, to the user. We didn't get it yet, but it's on the way. Okay, so you have this one also in the presentation. This will be sent to you later by Pat. Now, in order to complete the understanding of the variable usage, we'll discuss how we can read a list from an external resource and use it. Because most of the time, 90% of the time, you need to execute operations on a list of servers, list of users. For example, doing a ping activity to a list of users, checking log file on a list of server, checking list of users. Most of the time, you won't do a certain operation on a single server. So when you understand how to use a list, everything becomes easier, and you basically covered around 80% of what you need to understand about eyeShare and variables. We have basically, when talking on a list, you can read it from an Excel file, from a text file, from a database, from any other external resource. It has 4 major elements. The first one is reading the external resource, checking the number of rows, going over each row while extracting the desired information, and then executing the operation on this one. So let's see how it works. Okay, we'll start with, we'll do a short, simple, let's see how it works. We'll read the list of servers, okay, from a file name. And we'll try to ping each server in order to monitor which servers are down. I already created an Excel file named servers. The first row should always contain the column name. As you can see here, it can be either IP address or server name. Now, I suggest, as a little tip for you, when you create a workflow, check it step by step, okay? Do not create the entire workflow and then execute it at the end. So let's see how it works. Reading the Excel file, just like this. You can see here, you can open, this is the result. Now, we would like to go over the list and execute an operation on each server. So we need to know how many rows do we have here, because this is dynamically. You can edit the Excel anytime, and you do not need to touch the workflow. So we'll take the get rows count. This is quite similar to what we did before, and we'll type here in result. Now you can see here that we have 4 rows. Now we need to go over the result, so we'll use the while activity here, just like this, from the workflow controls. It contains an exit while. This one will determine how many iterations there will be here. So of course you'll need the get rows count that we already have, just like this, because we'd like to perform this one 4 times for each server. Now the last step is extracting the name of the server on each iteration. So we'll use the get cell value here. This one receives the table name that we already have. Read Excel 1. Receives the row number, which is dynamic. This is the exit while 1 from here. This one holds the counter. And the column number, which is 1, because we know that we have Excel with only 1 column with the server name. So you can see this is the basic structure. Reading Excel, checking the number of rows, creating the exit while, and extracting the name of the server. Of course, you do not need, it can be Excel with few columns. You can have the server name, log file path, or any additional information that can be extracted during the workflow. Now, I suggest to rename the variable name here to some more meaningful name. This will be the server name, in order to use it on the following activities. Now, we would like to ping each server. So we'll take the ping here, and we'll use the server name from here. Just like this, okay? And now we can check the result of the ping activity. In case we get a failure, we would like to send an alert to the administrator. Now pay attention to the fact that I'm using the server name here again, because this is the one which is down. Okay, so now let's execute this one. see here, reading the Excel, extracting. The first one was localhost, ping was successful. The second one was 1.80, again, successful ping. The third one is 170, successful ping. And the last one, the ping was failed. So eyeShare is sending an email to the administrator with the name of this server. This is what you need to know. Remember the fact, remember the variables, remember how to move variables between activities, and you got it. Now I'll go back. In order to complete this session, I would like to talk about the fact that the system is agentless. That means that every activity is being done remotely using either WMI for Windows-based systems or an SSH for Unix-based systems. And in order to understand the permission here that you need, you can either create, let's take, for example, let's take the service status, for example, here. Well, you can either use username and password for this specific activity here, type it inside the activity. You can either define username and password for the server. In this case, every activity which is being executed on this server will use the username and password here, or you can even create default credentials. That means that every operation will be executed with those default credentials. So you can either use the activity level, the server level, a site level, which is per site, or a different default credentials. Now, we saw how to create workflow, and now we need to understand how we can initiate it. Okay? So we have two ways how to initiate workflow. The first one is schedule the workflow. You see here, you have the schedule workflow button here. Here you can decide on what basis would you like to execute workflow. It can be either on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, hourly basis, and so on. Very simple. Here you can convert all your IT routine tasks into workflow and execute it on a regular basis. This is the first option. And by the way, when you're inside the studio here, this is the place where you create workflow. Here you can create and see the scheduled action and the next run. And the last part is creating an action rule, which is how you can initiate workflow according to external alert. So let's say I would like to create a new action rule here. Each rule is based upon two elements: the conditions that need to be matched and the workflow that will be initiated in accordance of this condition is matched. So how to create a condition? It's very simple. You just press here the plus button here. And the condition can be based upon a few elements. It can be the source of the alert, the message body, the message subject. Let's do something simple. Let's say I would like to execute a certain in case the system receives an alert from snag use monitoring system, and there is a certain word in the message body. So there it is, source equal nagius at xyz.com, and the second element is message body with the word. You can create your own. Just like this. And here you define the condition between those elements. It can be either an or an and. Should those both elements be matched or only one of them? Just like this. Now you see a very simple example. Source equals nagius at xyz and message body. Whenever eyeShare will receive an alert from this email and the message body will contain low disk space, you'll decide which workflow to execute. Okay. And you press add. So this is the condition, and this is the workflow that should be executed. Okay. eyeShare can receive external alerts using email, using our own command line, which is a great exe file. We can eyeShare receive alerts using text message, SNMP, syslog, or web service. Okay, and of course, since we're based on reading this text, all of them are text alert. We analyze the text and decide which workflow should be initiated. Of course, eyeShare can receive alert without doing anything, just logging it into the active log. Okay, guys. I would like just to summarize this session. We had a quick overview of eyeShare and the system requirements. We learned how to create a simple workflow. We saw it's very easy, just a drag and drop. We saw how to use variables. This is a key concept in eyeShare, how to use variables, how to move variables and the result between different activities. And then we saw how we can use a list of servers, list of users, and how to initiate the workflow. Now, guys, everything is recorded. You can have the presentation. You can see our quick start guide video tutorial in the website, which contains most of the things that we saw today. And you can start working. Just download the product and start creating your own workflows. It's easy and fun. And if you have any questions, you can mail us at support@ayehu.com. We're more than happy to escort you. Thank you very much.